Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and it's Friday. So right now, today we're going to have a Friday Feelgood, and we're going to talk about the Supermoons that are going on right now. This guy's pretty funny. Little cape, little emblem there. And yeah, we're going to talk about a supermoon, a full moon that can be a blood moon too. So that just happened recently. But right now, this is headlines because the first moon, full moon, supermoon, which was a supermoon, that happened July 3rd. Some places say July 2nd. It was the first of 4 supermoons this summer in a row. 4 supermoons in a row. And so it started out over the weekend with the July 3rd moon, and it says that supermoons can lead to a 30% brightening of the moon and a 14% increase in the lunar disk as seen from Earth, but these differences usually aren't noticeable with the unnaked eye unless one pays a lot of attention to the moon nightly. And I don't know, I was coming home the other night and it was just coming up over the mountains, and I was like, oh my God, that moon is huge. I didn't know supermoons were coming up, but I noticed it with the naked eye. And so right here it says that they called it the buck moon, and it was just 224,895 miles from Earth in comparison to its average distance, which is about 238,000 miles. So yeah, I heard it was about 14,000 miles closer to Earth. And then the next full moon, which is also a supermoon, is Tuesday, August 1st. That's going to be 222,158 miles. And then August is going to have 2 full moons, which happen to be 2 supermoons, and a second full moon in a month is a blue moon. So the second supermoon, the third supermoon, and in this 4, the second supermoon of August will be the blue moon on August 30th, and that'll be 222,043 miles away from Earth. And then the last one is going to happen on September 23rd. September 28th, and that's going to be 224,657 miles from Earth. So there's a lot of moon stuff going on right now. 4 supermoons in a row. And this space.com article says supermoons occur because the orbit of the moon around Earth is not a perfect circle. As a result of Earth's gravitational influence, the moon's orbit is elliptical, appearing like an elongated circle or oval. That means there are times in the moon's 27-day orbit that it is closer to Earth and other times that it is farther away. A supermoon happens when the moon is both in the full moon phase of its 29.5 lunar day cycle and is at perigee, the closest point to Earth in its orbit. So right here in this video, you can see this is the moon's orbit around Earth. And you can see here, it's much farther away than it is here.
Psi, apogee, is about 30,000 miles, 50,000 kilometers, farther from Earth than the other, perigee. Nearby perigee full moons appear about 14% bigger and 30% brighter than full moons that occur near apogee in the moon's orbit. The supermoons are...
There you go. And here's almanac.com, and it says, what is a supermoon? We can just go through this kind of fast here. But it says, generally speaking, a supermoon is a full moon that appears larger than a typical full moon because it is closer to Earth. And then it says there's a broad definition and a strict definition. And they say that most folks go by the broad definition since it's more exciting to talk about multiple supermoons instead of just one or two. So right here, the broad definition of a supermoon is a new or full moon that occurs when the moon is near perigee, the point in the moon's orbit where it is closest to Earth. By this definition, there can be several supermoons in a year. The term supermoon was coined by astrologer Richard Noel in 1979 and specified that the moon must be within 90 degrees of perigee. And right there, perigee is where the moon is closest to the Earth. So this almanac.com is the Old Farmer's Almanac. And yeah, they say they follow the broad definition. And they show the calendar here of the miles and as the other article read, how far they are going to be away from Earth. And just driving the point home, it says a perigee is the point in the moon's orbit where it is closest to Earth. And apogee is the point in the moon's orbit where it's farthest from Earth. The moon makes one complete orbit around Earth in about 29.53 days, which means it reaches its perigee and apogee points about once a month. When this occurs simultaneously as a full moon, it's called a perigee syzygy, or more commonly, a supermoon. Supermoon, easier to say, I think, than perigee syzygy, which I'm probably not saying right. But syzygy is the astronomical term for when three or more celestial bodies, such as the moon, the sun, moon, and Earth, line up. When the sun, moon, and Earth form a syzygy, we experience a full moon or a new moon, depending upon whether the moon is between the Earth and the sun, or the Earth is between the sun and the moon. And right here it says, does a supermoon really look bigger? Given that a supermoon full moon is closer to the Earth than a typical full moon, it does appear larger, about 7% larger, technically speaking. This means that the difference between a full moon at perigee and a full moon at apogee can be up to 14%, which is significant. And right here, they show them at their two different points. So the perigee, which is right here, is when it's closest to the Earth. So it appears 14% bigger than when it's at the apogee, which is when it is at its farthest from the Earth. However, they say, here's a crucial fact. Unless you were somehow able to compare a normal full moon and a supermoon side by side in the sky, it's nearly impossible to perceive a 7% difference in the moon size. I don't know. The other night when it was coming up over those mountains, I was like, maybe I just don't go out that much at night anymore and I just don't see the the moon, but man, oh man, it looked way bigger to me. But who am I to argue with the Farmer's Almanac? Because it says, even if you could somehow place the year's biggest possible moon, the perigee full moon, next to the smallest moon, the apogee full moon in the sky, you'd barely tell the difference. So, that's what they say, and I guess how can I argue with them? They say it's an illusion. So, a moon down near the horizon will always look enormous, thanks to a well-known phenomenon called the moon illusion, which makes our minds exaggerate the size of objects near the skyline. So maybe that's what I was looking at when it was just coming over the mountains. It didn't show up in the picture I took. I'm like, it's not going to show up. It never does. But man, in person, okay, I guess my mind was exaggerated. Okay, and so right now, we just have this, super moon feel-good feeling, and this happens every so often where you get a couple of supermoons in a row. This happened back in 2017 and 2018, December 3rd, December 1st, and December 31st. And there are the 3 full moons. And the thing about that one is the 31st was an eclipse where the Earth got in between the sun and the moon, and so you get the blood moon, and this red that shows up on the moon is the reflection of all of the sunrises and sunsets around the world on the moon, when the Earth is blocking out the sun from getting to the moon. So that's what causes a red moon. So this just happened a couple of years ago. This does happen because of the moon's orbit. So, it goes around 29.53 days. It goes around the Earth. So it's always kind of a full moon out there. Maybe this does look bigger just because it's coming up over the skyline. I'm not sure. But right now, we just have a little bit of summer fun. And we have 4 supermoons to give us some sky smiles, I guess. So just a little Friday fun to help people feel good in some times that maybe aren't always as good as life could be. And we will just be happy with our supermoons. And stay tuned, people.